Listen up, fellow Democrats. Fight fake news and lies with facts. Save our democracy from right-wing hypocrisy. Keep our integrity, embrace our diversity. Whenever we're down, we always come back. So listen up, Democrats.
Hello, welcome to Progressive Oregon, a weekly engagement broadcast on progressive issues in Oregon. My name is Larry Taylor. I am here today with my co-host Betsy Cunningham from Douglas County. If you would like to ask questions, you are more than welcome to do so at the chat window at the YouTube screen. So go in, type in your questions, and Betsy will relay them to the conversation, and we will do our best to get them answered. Today, we are going to talk a little bit about it's not so much what happened this past week, because it was pretty uneventful, but what's happening in the next couple of days in terms of events. The main part of the show today is to review the races for the Oregon legislature. This is critical in who controls the legislature because that's where the bills get written and passed. And then we'll talk a little bit about the Progressive Nomination Convention coming up and the reorganizations, and then just the regular calendar of events. So first of all, John, would you like to talk about your shot?
I just thought to thank you, Larry. Good morning, everybody. I thought this was the best summary ever of what we have going on. Vote because Republicans suck and organize because Democrats do too. Yeah, it's a bit of a generalization, but that's what we're doing. I just had to share. Thank you, Larry, for giving me that moment.
So election night events, you do not have to sit at home alone unless you're an introvert and just don't want to be around other people. The Democratic Party of Oregon always has a big gathering. This year, it's going to be again at the Portland Hilton in downtown Portland. Everyone is going to be there, and by everyone, I mean Governor Brown. Both senators, Merkley and Wyden, are going to be there, even though they're not up for election, but they're going to be there to speak and just bond with their fellow Democrats. The four Democratic members of the House of Representatives will be there: Schrader, DeFazio, Blumenauer, and Bonamici. And then the other ones that are also not up for election, the Attorney General Ellen Rosenblum and Tobias Reed will be there, plus all of the local, I would expect all of the local candidates that are running for both the House and the Senate from the Portland metro area will be there as well. It's usually a well-attended event. 400 or 500 people show up for that. So if you want to go and hang with your representatives, this is a great place to run into them and socialize with them. And you know, the most interesting thing about Oregon is that you can actually stand in a room where the senator is and you can go up and chat with them. I don't think you could get near a senator in California or New York or one of the more populous states. Oregon is so small that things are pretty friendly, and you see these people, they become human beings, and you can have interactions with them, and then start expressing your opinion and calling them up on the phone if you were intimidated to do that previously. So Portland Hilton, the doors open at 7 p.m. and they'll be partying until pretty late in the evening, especially if the election results are not conclusive.
So does this mean that you will have no problem going up to Jeff and asking him why he continues to vote for all the military budget increases while screaming about the bombing in Yemen? Just curious. Because
if I could remember, that would be an interesting question. I have several interesting questions for Jeff.
I mean, and this is like what you said. I love, because look, I got no problem with Jeff. I think he's a good guy, and I love what he's doing. But I also don't like the fact that he's voting yes for the military budget, and that's, as a constituent, we should ask him about that, right? So
yeah, those are. I mean, look at the impact of Hillary's vote for the Iraq War. Really, it torpedoed one of the things that torpedoed her election was. That was brought up, and it turned out to be the wrong vote.
Exactly. And if he's thinking a Merkley 2020 thing, come on now. Right. So anyway, all right, move on. Thank you. And welcome, everybody. Hey, Jeff. Marcus is with us. Randy, Schultze, Barbara, Jilly.
If you're down in the Salem area, the awesome Nickus family, Sean and Mary Nickus, have organized a corresponding event at the Salem Heritage Center. That is the former woolen mill over by the train depot, And if you live in the area, I'm sure you know where it is. That also starts somewhere around 7 o'clock. So go by. They've lined up entertainment. They've got all of the local politicians that are running for elections down there in both the county commissioner race and the local legislative races will be there for the event. So definitely go by that. That's going to be a really fun event. And we will be live streaming from there as well. We're going to talk about that later. You can join us online with Uphill Media. And if you don't know how to get to the link, you can get it at advancementofdemocracy.org. The link is out there now. You can subscribe and it'll give you a reminder when we get to Tuesday night. Uphill Media is live streaming for well over 2 hours that evening from the Portland Hilton and from Salem. So we'll be beaming in from 2 locations, and we will do our best to capture the speeches as they happen. And if we are really want to push the technological boundary, we are going to do some interviews. So stay tuned for that if you can't make one of the live events, or if you just want to watch this whole thing from the comfort of your home. And beyond that, there are a number of local parties for people who are just too far away to get into either Salem or Portland. I know out here in Clatsop County, we're having a big tent. That's where the Indivisible group is joining with the Clatsop Democrats and all the other progressives out here to get together. And all the people on the local ballots, or at least the progressive side, will be there to watch the returns come in. And generally, all of the parties start around 7 o'clock, and they'll go to about 9 o'clock unless it's conclusive and everyone is talked out and they're just tired of the elections. Because I am. I don't know about you, John and Betsy.
Oh, I'm already getting ready for 2020, man. I'm just
So no, we actually started working on 2020, and that's going to be a topic that we might touch on in this next segment.
Oh, exciting.
So if you have any questions about what's going on or where to find out what's going on, just type in the chat window and Betsy will relay it, and we'll do our best to direct you.
We have 19 people watching right now on this Sunday morning. Hi, all 19 of you. That's a pretty big crowd for us. Thanks for being here.
Going to the main part of our presentation today. So what we're doing is a final review of all the legislative races. For the past couple of months, we've been talking, well, during the primary at least, we talked about the dearth of competition in the primary elections. There was just one candidate in many of the races on both the Democratic and the Republican side because of this culture we have of not challenging incumbents. And we end up with people who are just running year after year after year, and it's really time to have new leadership. But that's a whole separate issue. We've talked about that. Now that we're past the primaries, we're at the general. We do have a number of contested races, but it's Democrat versus Republican. And because the state pretty much, there's very little purple acreage in the state. It's either red or blue and not very much in the middle. So all the action is happening in the general election this year. On this slide, it shows the Senate districts. Because the Senate positions are for 4 years, only half of them are up. And so what I've colored in red in the state picture are the Senate seats that are up this time. And then in the blue, it's a closer shot of the Senate districts in the Portland metro area, which are much smaller because the population is so much more dense. I mean, look at the difference between 60, which is that large blob on the right hand of the screen that's red.
It's the searing red one that's killing your eyeballs right now. That's
that whole thing is Senate District 60, which you could put the most dense Senate district in the tiny little corner of that. So that's the districts are based on population, and so they're all equally representative of the same number of people generally. And so that's why you get 60 being so large and the ones in the metro area so small. So we already know what half the Senate's going to look like. Actually, it's a little more than half, and I didn't get a chance to understand why we have 2 extra Senate seats this time. Usually there's only 15 up, but for some reason there's 17 seats up, and it's probably because there's been some resignations and the appointee race has to come up for election. So there's actually 17, which is over half of the majority. And we'll go through we'll just quickly go through the Senate races. And there's 8 in the non-Portland Senate districts. And Betsy was just talking about this earlier. The one race that could easily be a toss-up is Shannon Souza versus Dallas Hurd in Southern Oregon. Anything you'd like to say about that race, Betsy?
Well, there's been a lot of Republicans even coming out because of Dallas Hurd's ineffectiveness as they see it. And then there's rallying behind, the fact that he's taken some Jordan Cove money. So, we are notoriously red, unfortunately, but we will see. It looks pretty interesting that we may actually dethrone Dallas Hurd, which would also be a real hit on the GOP here because he's one of their favorite sons.
Interesting. And what's interesting, the other thing interesting about this slide is that these are the non-Portland, non-blue state districts, and yet the Democrats are poised to take 6 of them for sure. I would be surprised if any of those lost because most of them are running for re-election. And then we have people like Betsy Johnson, whose only opposition is Ray Biggs from the Constitution Party. This is a fairly liberal district that she represents, and he'll be lucky if he registers any votes whatsoever. And then there's probably one that will most likely go Republican. The progressive Saleha Kabakov is running against Cliff Bentz. Cliff Bentz was endorsed by Ohio Week because he generally he's a moderate Republican, and he's not an evildoer, and he's the incumbent, and he's most likely to win that one.
I just want to throw in there that Dallas Hurd is one of those interesting cases where he's not worth a lot of money yet, and so he would be an easy one to take out. And we have other ones coming up in 2020 that are the same. They're not worth a lot of money. They're taking small amounts of money from all these corporate interests, and $20,000. I think Dallas is like a $20,000, $40,000 campaign. That's not a lot,
Yeah,
that may be because he didn't think that anybody could take him out. That's the other dynamic when you look at that district, that it's historically red. And unfortunately, we don't have a lot of progressives or Democrats well organized, or haven't until more recently.
And up here in the north part of the state, we don't get a lot of media coverage of races outside of the metro area. So we hear a lot about. Well, I hear a lot about Tiffany Mitchell, whose race has gone up to $500,000 for a House seat, and that seems to be attracting a lot of interest. But from what I can tell, the Souza Hurd race has not been noted at all, and even talked about in terms of being a flip. So, I don't think the media is doing a particularly good job of talking about the actual state of this. Everyone focuses on the one race in Bend, like that was the make or break race for the Democrats taking a supermajority in the House. But in reality, there's a number of there's a handful of races that are actually in play this time. On the next slide, we have the I-5 corridor, Portland Senate seats. Again, the majority of them seem to be taken. It appears that the Democrats will win them. There's 5 there. There's 2 that are a toss-up. Deb Patterson is an awesome candidate who's running against the incumbent, Jackie Winters. Deb Patterson has a really good chance of picking up this one. Never heard about this race in the media coverage. And then the other one is Charles Galea, who's running against Alan Olson. That one seems to be a toss-up. Otherwise, Kim Thatcher is going to be reelected. She's the incumbent on the Republican side, and Chuck Thompson will probably be reelected on the Republican side. So likely totals in the Senate, currently in office. So these are the seats that are not up for election this time. The Democrats hold 6 and the Republicans have 7. And if my projections are accurate, the worst case scenario is the Democrats will pick up 11 seats and the Republicans will pick up 6, which means in the worst case, the Democrats will have 17 seats and the Republicans will have 13. Best case scenario, that's with the Democrats picking up the in-play seats. They pick up 14. The Republicans pick up 3, and that would be an astonishing majority for the Democrats, because that would give them 20 seats to the Republicans 10. The worst imbalance I can recollect is when the Democrats had 12 seats about a decade ago, and they said it was just awful because they didn't have enough numbers to do anything, and the Republicans were just dominating. So the Senate is poised to have that kind of dominance in this election. If only our Senate president then will allow Democratic reforms to come up for a vote.
And who's that?
And that's Peter Courtney.
The guy we tried to get rid of that we didn't, and now we got to wait 6 years, right?
No, 4.
4. Okay. Well, he's pretty old. Maybe he won't last.
Let's see. So
what do you think's likely to happen? How many do you think we're going to just maintain the quo? You think we're going to pick up a few?
I think they're going to pick up a few, and it all depends on who ends up voting this time. If the Democrats really respond and come out to vote, and there's a lot of work being done to get them to do that, it's possible that the Democrats really could pick up all of these.
No. And Barbara Bartleson is saying, I saw there's a 200% increase in early voting, 18 to 30-year-olds. Is that in Oregon? Betsy, do you know? Because I've seen a lot of insane numbers about early voting in the 18 to 30 brackets across the country. So if that's in Oregon, that would be phenomenal.
Yeah, Peter Courtney trounced his Democratic opponent in the primary. His general election opponent has taken the position in support of national popular vote, which Courtney refused to support, but I doubt if that issue is big enough to make a difference and take him out. He also has not only $1 million war chest, he also has control of the Senate PAC, so he has a lot of money that he could dump into this if he ever thought his seat was at risk. So in the House, I broke the state up into general districts, and I'm going to start with the eastern side of the state and start with the red and then go to the blue. So in the eastern half of the state, we have a number of seats that appear to all be going to the Republicans. The one seat that the Democrats had early hopes of taking was Nathan Bodie in Bend, but he got wrapped up in sexual assault charges and did not do a very good job of handling that. He's currently on the Bend City Council, and they just issued a reprimand against him. The Democrats have ran away from him. They're not giving him any support, and they tried to get him to pull out of the race so they could replace him with someone else, and he would not do that. But it would be astonishing if he won. So the Bend area, of course, is the new blue area in the center part of the state. If they could get a good Democrat in there, they could probably take that. This is currently held by Newt Bueller, who's fashioning himself as the most progressive Republican ever born. But that didn't happen this time. But as I was saying earlier, there are other races that are in place. So this is not the make or break race for the Democrats. The rest of these, not much to say about them. They're all mostly incumbents running for re-election, and they have an advantage because they're Republican and they're incumbents.
Have you heard Newt Bueller's? He's campaigning on like the Democratic Party nationally does. There's no specifics. It's just Newt's a great guy. Newt will take care of you. Newt likes fuzzy animals. There's no specifics. It's really very Tom Perez. I'm surprised.
And you wonder where that money is going. I think it's topping $30 million. $30 million is a lot of money.
It's just plastering his face with Newt's nice all across media. I mean, he's on YouTube. He's on every time I turn on anything, I see his freaking face. That's where it's going, man. You've seen it too, right? You're getting bombarded by those ads.
Yes. Yeah. Shocking. I mean, it's indiscriminate. They know where I live. The ads, and they must do a broad demographic that they're targeting, because I'm getting Newt Bueller ads on YouTube videos.
Yeah. It's like Minority Report kind of pre-crime. They're like, yeah, we can tell Larry's thinking about voting for Kate Brown. Send him some more ads.
On the next slide, we go to Southern Oregon. This is the area that is of any part of Oregon I would call purple, because we've got the Ashland Medford area, which has got a very active group in the Democratic Party, and then we actually have a Democratic Party county parties established in the Southern Oregon, and so it's the one area that seems to be purple. It appears that 3 are going to be a toss-up. There's Eldon Rollins running against David Brock Smith. Eldon won a highly contested primary. I think he had 4 opponents, and he pulled that out. Running against David Brock Smith, we have Megan Salter, who's making a valorous attempt at defeating Gary Leaf, who's not the incumbent. That's correct, Betsy?
Well, he's kind of the incumbent. He was actually elevated to the seat. We had Jeff Cruz, right? We our claim to fame is the Jeff Cruz that had to resign. And then Dallas Hurd, who was in the House, was elevated to that seat in the Senate. And then Gary Leaf, who was a county commissioner, was then elevated. So he's actually been, the incumbent for, 4 months or so?
Yeah, and so Hurd has no track record for half of his district. So so Hurd and Leaf can barely claim the incumbent mantle because they've not really been through a legislative session where they've done anything. So it's only a little bit of an advantage. However, Megan, again, is in a deep red district, and so it just depends on how disgusted people are with Republicans.
And Gary Leaf, which a lot of people don't like. He doesn't have a great reputation, so hopefully that is to Megan's benefit.
The one that will probably win is Pam Marsh. She's the Democrat representing the area around Ashland. And hopefully Michelle Bloom Atkinson will win, because she is an awesome candidate. She's running against Kim Wallen.
You got Pam Marsh with an I. Is she independent?
The I means incumbent.
Oh, thank you. My bad. I'm totally reading this wrong. Did you not interview Megan Salter? We talked to her?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Thought so.
We also interviewed Michelle.
Oh, great. Awesome. Thank you.
The next slide is the other half of Southern Oregon. We also interviewed Christy Inskip, but she's running against Cedric Hayden. I would love for Christy to win, but Cedric Hayden is the incumbent, has been in there forever. It would be amazing if she was able to upset him. He was most famously joined Julie Parrish in that awful ballot measure at the beginning of the year to overturn the Medicare medical assistance bill. I think we voted on that in January. Cost us $4 million, and it went down in flames. Thank you for wasting our money, Cedric. Bunch of Democrat incumbents. So Paul Hovey, Kathy McEwen, David Gomberg over on the coast will probably win. It would be amazing if they did not, even though they generally have races where they have to be actively engaged with the voters to pull it out. The Marty Wilde and Mark Herbert race I put in as a toss-up because those are also both, there's not an incumbent in that race. The next slide, we have the northern non-urban Portland. So this is the northern part of the state, but not Portland, I-5 corridor-ish. Kind of a purple mix in this group. The Julie Fahey from Eugene is an awesome representative, even though she has a challenger, and they always dump a bunch of money into this race. I expect her to win. The Jared Taylor, Shelley Davis race is probably a toss-up, and the Danny Jaffer, Mike Neerman race is, I hope, a toss-up. Danny is a unabashedly progressive former military member. We've interviewed him on the show. He represents my hometown of Dallas, Oregon, in District 23. it would be so cool if Danny won, because he will be a great legislator. Sherry Springer and Rick Lewis are running for re-election on the Republican side, and it would be amazing if either of them lost.
I'm gonna say I've seen a lot of Jared Taylor stuff. So whoever's running that campaign, I don't know if he's a decent Dem, but he's definitely got a good campaign in down here going. So I haven't seen anything about the Shelley Davis.
The other half of the northern non-urban Oregon, again, this is getting into the Portland metro area where the Democrats have a lock. There's 4 races, which it would be a shocker if they did not go to the incumbent on the Democratic side. And then we have 2 incumbents on the Republican side. Also, it would be astonishing if they did not win. I divided the metro area into two groups because it is so dense with candidates. This is the southern half, which is like southern metro area down into Salem. We have Mike Ellison, awesome candidate, running against Denise Boyles. Mike has been running a good campaign. He's getting out, talking to the voters. I'm hoping that one's going to be a toss-up and at least close, because Mike has put a lot of energy into this. Paul Evans, Brian Clem, Teresa Alonso Leon are all incumbents, and it would be astonishing if they lost. Teresa Alonso Leon does a great job of representing Woodburn and that community there. The David McCall, Bill Post race will probably go to Bill. He's the incumbent. Rich Vial was one where the Republicans or the Democrats thought they could pick up a race, and I don't remember the details behind it, but this is another race where the Democratic candidate crashed and burned. And Rich Vial is not a bad guy. We've had him on the show, and he's pro-medical, he's pro-universal health care, and has been a huge supporter of the Oregon Medicare expansion. So he'll probably win there. The most interesting race in this group is the Rachel Prusak, Julie Parrish race. It's an area that does have a slight Democratic edge. You have Julie Parrish, who got the Willamette Week endorsement and is admired in the same way that Donald Trump is admired, in that she doesn't adhere to speaking points. She's more of a straight shooter and people like that, but she also has this crazy streak, and she's the one that sponsored the January bill on the medical referral that wasted $4 million. So Rachel is I believe she's a nurse, and she's an awesome person, and it would be so great if she was elected. So that one I hope is going to be close, and I hope Rachel pulls it out. The next one also could be a close one. Neither one of them is the incumbent. And on the last one, Mark Meek, he's in the incumbent, and he should probably win that one as well. Now we get into Metro North. And this is, the Democratic stronghold. All of these seats should go Democratic. They're all incumbents. Most of them have been representing their people forever. 3 of them don't even have Republican opponents. Andrea Salinas won her race by appointment, and so that's why she's an incumbent. But again, she didn't draw an opponent in that race. They couldn't even find someone to run against her, even though she's not actually run a campaign before. So she's going to win. And the last one, Rob Noss. Rob does a great job representing Portland.
Wow. I want to just clarify something for Barbara. Here in Oregon, we have a very strong Democratic progressive House, and our Senate blows. But it's been, I don't know how long it's been that way. Larry could probably clarify. So, yeah, these are all strong because we have a decent House. How long has it been that way, Larry?
Not that long. Like I said, it was only a decade ago where the Democrats were in just a hole of a minority, and then they got parity, and so it was 16-14, But we had the problem of a couple of the Democratic senators voting like Republicans, and so everything was touch and go to get anything through. A lot of bills got defeated until we had a stronger majority. If everything goes the way it looks like it's going to go this time, this will be the strongest that the Senate has been in a long time. And so now we just have the problem with the leadership allowing progressive bills to go forward.
And so there's two people in Senate that we can't even touch this year, or we tried and failed, that are stopping all the progressive stuff that comes out of the House, and that's really frustrating. Thank you for that summary, Larry.
Next slide is Metro North. Again, just solid Democratic base. This is the group that's going to elect Kate Brown if she's going to get reelected. 5 of the races don't even have opponents, so they're total give-me's. You can see by the number of races where there are no candidates on the Republican side, it's an indication of how weak the Republican Party has become. There used to be a group of wealthy Republicans who always pooled just a pile of money and would distribute around the state, and that was what supported so many Republicans getting elected. But that was led by Mark Hemstreet, who subsequently had financial problems, and that whole group seems to have gone away. So we don't have that huge pile of money being given to Republicans like we used to see. And really, this is so boring. There's nothing I can really say about this. Tanya Sanchez is a really cool legislator. She's a American Indian. Alyssa Kinney-Geyer is turning out to be one of the most active people to interact with the Democratic Party and working with the Democratic Party to get things changed. So we'll probably see great things from Alyssa Kinney-Geyer going forward. So in the likely totals for the House, worst case, I'm predicting that the worst case is they will get 34 Democrats to 26 Republicans. And the best case scenario is that they get 43, and if they win all of the toss-up ones, and the Republicans will have 17. And so, I mean, that would be just an amazing hole for the Republicans to be in if the best case scenario in both the House and the Senate come true, because what that means is that even though there's a higher voting requirement for some types of revenue bills, the Democrats would have the votes to push anything forward. So there would really be no excuse for things not getting done in this next legislature if they pull this out with a strong majority. So what does this mean? If the Democrats maintain a really strong position, again, they will retain control of both the Senate and the House. In theory, the agenda in the platform of the Democratic Party of Oregon will be enacted. The Democratic Party puts a lot of energy into writing the Democratic Party every 2 years. Even the chair now is touting the progressiveness of the party platform. The problem is that it doesn't go anywhere once it gets approved by the Democratic Party, because we do not really give the legislators anything they can't supply themselves. We don't give them vast amounts of money to get reelected, and we do give them access to the voter file, but that is really taken for granted, and we do give them boots on the ground to help run some of these campaigns. If we did more in the boots on the ground and in the financial support, then you would see the people in the legislature pay more attention to the Democratic Party and what the Democratic Party wants. But it really comes down to who's funding the elections and causing them to get elected. Hopefully everyone has been talking to their legislators in these campaigns, and even though they're unopposed, getting them to make commitments to support specific pieces of legislation. This is another chance we have of correcting the national popular vote situation. If we had had national popular vote in place since 2000, we would not have had the Iraq War, and we would not have Donald Trump as president. Why this is such a difficult concept for some people is beyond me. The whole principle of majority vote is what we are trying to enact. It doesn't matter if we have a crazy state that whose will would be overturned because the majority of people in the United States of America want someone else as president. We really need to enact the National Popular Vote Initiative so that the candidate who is elected president actually got the most votes. If you've been talking to your representatives and they have pledged support to things like National Popular Vote, then we need to track them. So after the election, suddenly the thing that they wanted from us, which is our vote, is no longer an issue, and so we're now just trusting them to do the right thing when they get elected to Salem. We have to pay attention to what's going on. So, if you've not ever visited legislators in the past and there are issues that are important to you, we will do our best at Uphill Media to alert you of things coming up for hearings, so you can go down and visit your legislator and show up and testify, doing all those things that's part of democracy to influence what goes on.
Hear, hear. Can I just show everybody something real quick in terms of reality? Here's Peter Courtney's finances and what we're competing against. Peter Courtney doesn't care about our money, but he is taking a lot of labor money. And I find that interesting. So the Food and Commercial Workers Local 555, $75,000 to his campaign, which is a huge chunk. And I just find that very interesting. If we're going to get rid of Pete, we have to reach out to labor. We have to reach out to these top contributors, these sectors, because he actually takes what appears to be union money, not corporate, on the top. So that's going to be a big challenge. That's depressing. Just wanted to share that. One final big shout out to Charles Mon, who looks like he's going to crush Catherine Mader in Corvallis Ward 2, and it's because a very small group of people worked really, really hard and busted ass to make sure that Charles' name was out there. He got the endorsement, I think, all of the papers in Corvallis. So congratulations. I don't want to jinx it, but good work, Charles.
That would be great if Charles got elected.
It would, because then we can do more with local access media in Corvallis.
Upcoming events. Unless you have been in a hole with no access to the internet, you were aware that Tuesday is Election Day. It is now too late to mail in your ballot, so you need to take your ballot to a drop box. If you don't know where your drop boxes are in your area, just go to your county elections website, and they should list them. And if they've not listed them, there's at least a drop box at the county elections office. I know for some of the larger counties that are really big, it's going to be a drive to get your ballot in. But with a race, certainly the CD2 race with Jamie, it's really, really important to get your votes in. It'll all be over on November 6th, and hopefully we'll have a reason to celebrate that night.
This round will be over on November 6th.
But the next round has already started. On November 11th, we have the Progressive Nomination Convention here in Portland and on the internet. If you've not done so, what we want everyone to understand is that the Democratic Party is a party of the people, and if you are a Democrat, you can participate in this. You can run for any of the positions as a registered Democrat, and you can vote in these elections if you are either an elected or an appointed precinct committee person. For not so much the races coming up in November, because it's now a little bit too late to become a precinct committee person, but it's still possible to pull that off for things that happen maybe late December or January or February. You can become a precinct committee person if there's an open slot in your area and participate in these and vote. And as I said before, you can run for any of these positions. Certainly in a lot of the smaller population counties, where it's difficult for people to take off time to go to the state central committees. They might actually be appreciative of someone who wants to get involved at the state level and run as a state central committee delegate. And the only qualification is that you be a registered Democrat. You don't have to be a high donor, long-time participant in the Democratic Party. So if you would like to be considered and advertised on the progressive side of the ticket, you are welcome to sign up. And if you are not in the Portland metro area, we will pull you in through the internet and give you 2 minutes to speak to your candidacy. We have some very exciting people lined up who are going to be speaking that day. And so even if you don't want to run, but you want to know who's running for positions in the Democratic Party, you're more than welcome to watch the live stream broadcast, either as it is being recorded or later. And we're doing this so soon after the election because the very first county reorganization happens on November 12th, which is just 1 week after the election is over. So all of the changes of the Democratic Party of Oregon start happening fast and furious after the November 6th election. Of the counties that are elected, that elect delegates before December 2nd, they will immediately take office and will be voting at the December 2nd meeting. This is the meeting where in the past we have considered things like opening up the primary, lost because we didn't have enough votes, changing the structure of the governing bodies within the Democratic Party, lost because we didn't have enough votes. On the December 2nd one, we've got some key votes coming up on some rules that will make things more transparent within the party. We need votes to support them. So if you're in Washington County, Clackamas County, or Harney County, or any of the counties that are electing delegates prior to December 2nd, please get in there, get involved, and make sure that progressive delegates to the State Central Committee are elected. The DPO reorganization meeting will happen on March 16th and 17th. That's where we elect the chairs, the chair, the 2 vice chairs, and the secretary of the party. All of the State Central Committee delegates elected up to that point in time will be voting. So all the ones that will be voted on in January and February, which includes the huge number of votes coming from Multnomah County, will be elected then. Already starting working on the local elections coming up on May 21st. These are the races that have the most impact on your life as a citizen in the state. These are here in little old Clatsop County, which barely has which is right in the middle in terms of population in the state. We have 120 positions on the ballot, and it's everything from the health care districts to the transportation district to the school boards. We need candidates to run for all of these positions, not only to make sure that they are run properly with the correct values that reflect the people, but this is the feeder system for a higher office. People really need experience in some of the lower offices before they start running for the higher positions like state senator.
Especially third-party people. Just want to throw that out there. Green Party, Independent Party, all you little tiny parties, start with the lower races because then you can win. All right, go ahead, Larry.
I didn't make a big note of it, but it was surprising the number of Libertarian Party candidates that are running. The Libertarian Party doesn't do a great job of supporting them once they get nominated, but they are fielding a number of candidates. So
that's very libertarian of them. You could run, but you're on your own.
Just a warning. A lot of the counties have very small staffs in the elections office, and as you can imagine, with 120 positions here in Clatsop County, finding out things like what district does this position cover? Are you eligible? What are the qualifications for running? Can be a little frustrating to find out because they're not all posted on the internet. I know last time I went to the Clatsop County office to see what they did is they brought out this binder that was probably 5 inches thick, and they said, well, here's the data. Good luck finding out what you need. I don't even know if it was accurate because stuff becomes obsolete and it has to be maintained. So just persevere, go in, be patient, be nice to these people because they're overworked and understanding. But if you really want to get involved, go in with the positions that you're interested in and work with them to find out what it takes to get you elected. Because there are steps to it. Some counties have petitions that you have to have filled out. You have to gather signatures or pay a fee. There's a filing deadline. All of these are things that you need to find out in order to make sure you get elected. And if you want to know beforehand, because often these positions are not advertised, on what's going to be on the ballot, you can go to the elections office. Hopefully it's on the internet, but if not, at least you can go to the office and get what happened in 2015, because most of these positions are 4-year positions. And what was up for election in 2015 will most likely be up for election in 2019. And that'll give you an idea of what is coming up and you can run for. We really need to know who's running come January 1st, because after selecting the candidates to run is just the beginning of the process. You have to work with candidates, especially if they're running for the first time, to get them educated about the process of running for office and how to get elected. They need to talk through their beliefs and their issues, and they need to practice articulating them so that they can give elevator speeches that are within the time span of people's attention this day and age. There's just no room these days for long theses on your beliefs. You need to have the 3 things that you believe in ready to go when you go out and speak with the public. And then if you are a Democrat, you can work with your local Democratic Party to get access to the voter lists.
Maybe.
So you know who to talk to and when you run your campaign. It has been proven time and time again, even though they are now spending millions of dollars on YouTube videos and flyers, the most important thing you can do in an election is go out and walk door to door and meet the people that will be voting for you. That is 20 times more impactful than anything that they will see on the internet or receive in the mail. Proven fact. Midterm election night. What are we doing, John?
We're going to have a party. Well, we're doing this. It's going to be cool, actually. We have a lot of stuff going on because we'll be doing remote. We've got Adam Klugman joining, I hope, joining myself and Laura Livengood and Marcus in the virtual studio. We'll be bringing you with Ashley from Portland. We'll be bringing Sean Nickus and Lowell Wetzel from Salem. Maybe we'll bring in some other people, maybe Sarah Smith from Washington if Oz and I can work it out. And yeah, we'll be covering all sorts of stuff. So it'll be a fun night.
And you'll be talking about both Oregon results as well as national results.
Adam will be covering the national, key races, and anything you guys, how it works. Anything you want us to report on, we'll just hold the data right there. Marcus is working on a good set of slides, and we've got a music list ready to go, and it'll be a fun night. Join us. A lot more interesting.
Starts at 6:45, and do you know what time you'll end?
Whenever we decide we're bored, right? If we're waiting on some, critical data at 9:30, we'll hang. If we're like, all right, we know what we know until morning, we'll be gone. So, maybe 9:30-ish, something like that. And
it really is true. There might be a number of elections that are not settled Tuesday night. If you remember when Kitzhaber ran against Chris Dudley, the basketball player, we did not know for 3 days because there was a huge rush of Multnomah County voters on election day, and it took forever to get those processed. There was something like 70,000 voters on election day. All those signatures had to be verified and then counted, and it wasn't for 3 days that we knew that Kitzhaber pulled out a squeaker. And that was against a basketball player. Kate Brown is running against a sitting legislator who has run for office before and has statewide name recognition and experience. He's not just a surgeon. He's actually had experience in the legislature. So he's a much stronger candidate than Dudley was.
Wow. That's unfortunate. If only Kate would maybe stand her ground on a few things, like Jordan Cove. Anyway, we hope Kate wins. It goes back to slide 1, everybody, right? This one. Vote because Republicans suck. Organize because Democrats too. We don't want Newt to win, and then we need to force Kate to be more progressive. There was a beautiful DSA article about that. It's just about working democracy.
And you guys caught that Patrick Starnes for the Independent Party suspended his campaign because he got a commitment out of Kate to facilitate campaign finance reform, constitutional amendment?
No. I knew.
Yes, he did it on Monday.
I knew he did it, but I didn't know why. I didn't know he actually got something out of her. Wow.
That's what he tells me. So
Wow.
that's one thing that, maybe the strategy, although it kind of pissed people off who were looking for an alternative candidate, myself included. But hey, if he can get her to do it.
That's awesome. Thank you, Patrick Starnes. What else, Larry? We good?
Next slide, we have the Progressive Democrats nominating convention. Again, you can go physically to Sunnyside Community House, 3520 Southeast Yamhill for the event physically on November 11th, starting at 2 o'clock, or you can tune in online to watch the live stream broadcast there. That's going to come up in 14 days. No, it's sooner than that.
It's the 11th.
It's a week from today.
Yeah.
God.
I know.
This election was amazing because it was 3 weeks to go and it seemed like an eternity, and then somehow 2.5 weeks disappeared, and suddenly we're just hurling towards the November 6th election.
Hurling is a lovely word, and it works. Yes.
County elections, known reorg dates. I have not received any update, and I've checked the DPO screen for this, and they've not received anything in addition, which is a little disturbing because there's 36 counties, and we only know the reorg dates for about a third of them. Harney County is the first one to come up, and that's on the 12th. Clackamas and Marion are going to be huge. They're on the 15th. Those are going to be, Marion County is going to be a big one just because they've got so many PCPs that they've never had before. Clackamas County had so many PCPs that they actually had contested elections for the first time in anyone's known memory. And they're doing that on a Thursday night. And that could take many, many hours to determine certainly who their delegates are going to be to the State Central Committee, because all those votes have to be counted. Tillamook is on the 15th also. The really big one is going to be Washington County. That's going to be on a Saturday on November 17th, starting at 9 a.m. in the morning. They have somewhere over north of 550 precinct committee persons. If everyone attends, it's going to be a huge event. We're looking for good things from them in their elections. My term as Clatsop County Chair will end again on November 26th. We've got some good people lined up to take over, so the party will be turned over into good hands. Any other big ones? Deschutes is happening on January 10th. That's one of the big counties. And so far, we know about reorg dates up until January 24th. Again, there's about 20 counties where we do not know when the reorg dates are happening. We don't even know if they know that they have to have a reorganization. This is where you have to engage with your local county party to make sure that they're doing things correctly. State law requires that you have this reorganization meeting where you elect new officers within 25 months of the previous one. If they've not had one in a couple of years, then they are in violation of state law. You need to remind them of it, and so they can do the right thing.
That's right. Just a quick update for Ryan Chan on Jamie McLeod Skinner. I know that she's running a good race and that there's a lot of groundwork out there and she's getting good feedback. I also know that she's been outraised like 4-1, and we're talking, I think she raised $1 million, and I can't even remember who she's running against. What was it, Walden? He's well over $4 million, maybe at $5 million at this point. So we'll see. we hope Jamie wins. She's one of those Dems that actually supports, a Medicare for all solution. So.
The site where all the links are held is advancementofdemocracy.org. If you would like to join and get messages and participate, you're more than welcome to. This is where we are coordinating things like education about parliamentary procedure, which is how you ensure that your rights are respected, organizing for candidate searches. We are kicking that off for the 2020 elections. We've already gone through the process of determining which races that we're going to be seeking candidates for, and now we are going to be launching the effort to find people to run against the incumbents that need to be replaced. That's all I have for today's show, John. Anything you would like to add? You, Betsy?
I want to plug donating, everybody. I've been seeing a lot of people donating, and I really thank you, but this month is going to cost us a lot of extra cash. It's going to cost Larry a lot of extra cash. So, because he's the financier of Uphill Media. So let's help Uphill Media out and therefore Larry by donating extra if you can, because the fees for our data transfer for these events with the solo are pricey, and we could use your help. Also, I want to get a drone for next year. Wouldn't that be fun? So think about that, the Uphill Media drone. So no, but really first we just need to help out Larry. Donate if you can, and I appreciate it. Everybody's been doing a great job. Share this so we can get other people to donate. Thank you.
And it's not about helping out Larry. It's helping out Uphill Media so we can increase the capabilities of this organization to spread the truth. It is so difficult to find out what's going on because we have the Oregonian, which is controlled by far right wingers, endorse Newt Bueller. We have the TV stations whose staffs have been cut, and all they can talk about are cat videos and things that are so impactful that they don't have to do much effort to talk about them. We don't hear about what happens at the rest of the state. We are the only organization lined up to fill that gap. We have an immediate need for $600. We are joining a couple of organizations which will allow us to expand our facilities and our outreach. And ideally, we can pull that in within the next week and get this stuff going so that we're going to be as effective as we can possibly be for the 2020 elections.
Thank you for saying that. And yes, we are. I talked about it in the Saturday show, Mike Wassenaar and the Salem facility, and we are going to be doing a lot. It's huge. So help us. And Oz, thank you for the $5. And Brahm, it will be an armed drone. It will be armed with a live. It will be armed with a live camera, which is equally as powerful as a rifle. So yes. All right. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Larry. You want to go through songs? We'll go through songs, or do you want to plug all the stuff?
Let's just a reminder that if you would like merch, we have both Uphill Media merchandise and we have Progressive Oregon merchandise. We get a cut of the profits on this, so even in addition to the advertising that you give us, you also indirectly feed money into us. I have the hoodie, and it is really cool. The Uphill Media logo was designed by Ashley, who does phenomenal work, and I love wearing this stuff. So you're more than welcome to purchase as much as you want.
It's really nice stuff. And I just want to say, Schultze, you're absolutely right. I don't know that they make a flannel. They should. If Larry could get a flannel, Uphill Media, he says Larry had some flannel and a black cowboy hat. He would probably bear a strong resemblance to the dad on Bonanza.
And if you want to know, Lauren Green was actually a progressive Democrat.
He was.
My parents knew him in the LA area. My parents were political activists. Yeah.
That's a great honor, Larry. Thank you, Schultze. Appreciate that. Buy our merch, whether you like Lauren Green or not. Anything else, Larry? Here.
Nope.
You want to talk about this? No? All right. We'll get out of here with a song. Thank you, everybody, for being here. And thank you, Larry and Betsy, for the work that you do. We're going to get out of here with Star Sailor, Listen Up. It's one of the songs I played a long time ago, and it just seems that every year, every day we go on with this revolution, it has more and more meaning. So go vote. Do what you need to do for the revolution. And we'll
see you all Tuesday night.
Yes, we will see you all Tuesday night. And no, there isn't a Robert's Rules. We're done. So Tuesday. All right. Bye, everybody.